The international community, really, we failed in preventing genocide, in preventing persecution.
What is the current situation of Rohingyas in Cox's Bazar and in Myanmar?
The main perpetrator of the violence against the Rohingya is the Myanmar military.
But why no country or no organization is telling Myanmar to get them back?
Ethno-nationalist organizations like ARSA or RSO that claim to be freedom fighters for the Rohingya.
Why don't you tell Myanmar?
Extremely problematic what the Trump administration is doing.
How is that even possible to allow them to move around the country freely?
They're not protecting Rohingya civilians. They're actually not even protecting Rakhine civilians.
Arsa Amir was arrested in Bangladesh. Was there any link between these things?
It's not just a national security threat for Bangladesh. It's a threat to international peace and security.
সবাইকে আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি ডিকোডিং ডিপ্লোমেসিতে। ডিকোডিং ডিপ্লোমেসি পডকাস্টে আমরা কথা বলবো আমাদের বিভিন্ন বিদেশি বন্ধুদের সাথে যারা বাংলাদেশের সাথে নানান রকম বিষয়ে এনগেজ থাকে। সেখানে রাজনীতি, অর্থনীতি, রোহিঙ্গা সব বিষয়গুলোই থাকবে, কিন্তু যখনই এটি বিদেশি বন্ধুদের সাথে কথা বলা হয় তখন এটি ডিপ্লোমেসির অংশ। সেটা যে বিষয়ই হোক না কেন, সেখানে শিক্ষা থাকতে পারে, সংস্কৃতি থাকতে পারে। আমাদের আজকের ডিকোডিং ডিপ্লোমেসির অতিথি একটি মানবাধিকার সংগঠন হিউম্যান রাইটস অর্গানাইজেশন এবং ইন্টারন্যাশনাল অর্গানাইজেশন ফোর্টিফাই রাইটস তার পরিচালক জন কুইনলি। মিস্টার জন কুইনলি, ওয়েলকাম টু ডিকোডিং ডিপ্লোমেসি।
Thank you so much for having me today. It's an honor to be here in Dhaka with you.
We're very glad you were here. The first question of mine, you have worked a lot regarding Rohingyas, regarding Myanmar. What is the current situation of Rohingyas in Cox's Bazar and in Myanmar?
The situation of Rohingya right now in Bangladesh and in Myanmar is protracted. It's a protracted situation that the root cause really lies with how the Myanmar government and the Myanmar military treated the Rohingya. They're the root cause for the Rohingya fleeing here to Bangladesh and for their ongoing persecution, lack of citizenship, and kind of exile. So right now, the Rohingya situation is protracted. The situation has not, unfortunately, changed very much since the genocide that happened in 2016, 2017. In Bangladesh, you have more than 1 million Rohingya refugees. I think it can't be stressed enough how amazing the hospitality of Bangladesh was towards the Rohingya, allowing that many people to come through the borders. It was a difficult situation. I don't know many countries that would do that same approach, right? But the situation now is quite restrictive. There's policies in place that don't allow the Rohingya freedom of movement, access to livelihoods, access to widespread education. But this is not a issue that Bangladesh can solve alone. It's a global issue, and the main perpetrator of the violence against the Rohingya is the Myanmar military, and they need to be toppled, and they need to be held accountable for the crimes that they committed against the Rohingya. And that's why this last couple weeks, there's been a case in The Hague at the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. And that case is looking at whether what happened in Myanmar is a situation of genocide against the Rohingya or not. So the Gambia, on behalf of the Rohingya, brought the case against the Myanmar state. So that's why you see that case happening now in the last couple weeks.
See, you have used towards the about the hospitality of Bangladesh, you have used the word amazing. But later, you were talking about the freedom of movement of Rohingyas. Let's see, for Bangladesh, since 2017, after the big influx, Bangladesh is facing a huge problems also for having them here, actually. Host community is being vulnerable against these guests. Everyone is telling to Bangladesh, everyone is praising Bangladesh for having them here, for this hospitality. But like all the friendly nations, including United Nations, they always request Bangladesh, even in the last couple of months, they have requested Bangladesh several times to have more Rohingyas from Rakhine. But why no country or no organization is telling Myanmar to get them back to their fatherland, motherland, or whatever it is?
I think you touch on a really good point, that the onus, the responsibility is on the state of Myanmar. Under international law, the state needs to protect their citizens, and Rohingya are citizens of Myanmar. My friend and leader, the late Mohibola, he was assassinated. He's a Rohingya leader. He was assassinated many years ago by actors in the camps, by Rohingya armed actors. He always said, Rohingya are not stateless. Do not call us stateless. We are citizens of Myanmar. Allow us to go back to Myanmar. So the international community, really, we failed in preventing genocide, in preventing persecution. The UN, international organizations like Fortify Rights, donor governments, we need to step up in our responsibility to support the Rohingya people, because Rohingya want to go back to Arakan. It is their native homeland. They're indigenous to Arakan. That being said, the state of Bangladesh, now that they accepted Rohingya people, they also have responsibilities as the state. And some of those responsibilities are protecting Rohingya, which they do a really good job at. There's authorities, APBN, the police authorities are protecting the camps. The army is protecting the camps. You have some access to education. There was a pilot project that took place, but it was quite small for formal education in the camps. And what my organization, Fortify Rights, is working a lot on is access to freedom of movement and access to legal status. And semi-formal legal status. And so in the UN, there's three kind of best practices to support refugees. One is repatriation, the second is resettlement, and the third is integration, or local integration. So those are the three approaches that every government, they say, should take to try to support refugees. I don't think a government needs to do one. They should do all three at the same time to support those refugees that are very vulnerable. Of course, repatriation right now is very difficult because
I will come to repatriation later.
Yeah.
You were telling that there should be some processes, and 3 points you have raised. It has to be done simultaneously. But why don't you, like you, Fortify Rights or other organizations, why don't you tell Myanmar to get their people back? And why don't they believe that they are citizens of Myanmar? Isn't it a conflict of interest? You people are always telling Bangladesh to protect the rights of Rohingya, to protect them, to hospitalize them. But why don't you tell Myanmar?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We're actively calling and urging the Myanmar authorities to protect Rohingya. We've been doing that since 2012, when there was state-sponsored violence in Sidwe, that the Myanmar military did not tell the people that were persecuting the Rohingya in Sidwe to stop. So we, as an organization, have been recommending that the Myanmar military and the Myanmar government, whether it's under the NLD, National Unity, National...
NUG.
Well, the NUG is now, but the
USDP.
But the government of Aung San Suu Kyi was in place before. And even under Aung San Suu Kyi, who was considered kind of a democracy icon, Suu Kyi actually, she was in power when the Rohingya genocide happened.
Correct.
So Fortify Rights, we've been speaking loudly and publicly that the Myanmar military needs to be held accountable, that they should allow Rohingya citizenship, that they should give them protected spaces, that they should be allowed back to their original homeland. The Myanmar military is now building bases on the villages that they destroyed and burned, and they're building their own shops, they're building their own bases. That happened before the Arakan army took over. So I think since the inception of Fortify Rights, we've been actively trying to call for accountability, work for accountability. A couple years ago, we submitted a universal jurisdiction complaint. They call a UJ case. Universal jurisdiction says that any government in the world can bring a case in their domestic courts if the crime rises to the level of like crimes against humanity, genocide, or war crimes, like atrocity crimes. So we submitted a petition in Germany, and we asked the German prosecutor to try Min Aung Hlaing in Germany. So we were basically bringing a case, a legal case against Min Aung Hlaing and his military for what they did to the Rohingya in Germany. Unfortunately, that case did not move forward. There's a lot of universal jurisdiction cases in Germany related to Syria and other situations. But we're trying as many avenues as we can to try to hold the Myanmar military responsible and end the ongoing impunity against the Rohingya, but also against the whole civilian population in Myanmar.
In Myanmar.
I was just in Karenni state in the eastern side of Myanmar, and they're getting bombed every day, civilian people. So it's not just the Rohingya.
You were talking about the freedom of movement of Rohingyas, but you see Rohingya people are coming out from their camps. They are engaging in crimes. They are trying to have passports of Bangladesh. They are flying away. How is that even possible for Bangladesh to allow them to move around the country very freely, since they are engaging in severe crimes also, and still they have some what should I say, separatist group. Several they are very ferocious. They are carrying heavy arms. So they are creating some law and order concern also for Bangladesh. So how is that even possible to allow them to move around the country freely?
Yeah, I think there's good examples globally where governments have supported refugees to move freely, but they're able to track them still. So they have ID documents that are not they're not citizenship documents, but they're kind of like we have in the U.S. We have a green card, or we have like kind of semi-permanent status. In Thailand, we have this thing called the pink card. I'm a Thai citizen as well, and living in Bangkok in Thailand for a long time. So I think there's these processes where they can be granted legal status, but still not become a national security threat, because if you're a criminal, if you're a militant, of course that person needs to be tracked. Fortify Rights, we have documented the real militant violence that has happened in Cox's Bazar. We documented abuses by the Archon Rohingya Salvation Army, ARSA. We documented abuses against RSO, Rohingya Salvation Army, or Rohingya Solidarity Organization. Those two organizations were killing their own people, abducting their own people, torturing their own people. These are Rohingya people committing widespread abuses against their own populations.
Arakan Rohingya Army is there, Islami Mahaz is there, and there are several groups also, like Nobi.
Yeah, exactly. So there's kind of these ethno-nationalist organizations like ARSA or RSO that claim to be freedom fighters for the Rohingya. And there's also these kind of more criminal organizations like you're talking about, like Nobi Hussein Group, that have kind of more criminal elements. They're trafficking drugs, or they're abducting people for ransom. But then the militant or kind of armed groups, ARSA and RSO, they have criminal elements, but they also have these political objectives.
Political, ideological substance. Yeah.
But I think one thing that the Western world should know is that the Rohingya armed revolution is not about Islam. It's an ethno-nationalist organization. There's no threat of jihad. There's no major links to Al-Qaeda or anything like that. The Rohingya armed groups in the camps are ethno-nationalist organizations. They're not very conservative in their approach.
But whatever it is, but they are creating concern for Bangladesh in terms of security.
Exactly.
And do you think so? This security concern is not only local or domestic. It can be impact or affect the regional security also.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. I think the situation of Rohingya is not just a national security threat for Bangladesh. It's a threat to international peace and security. You have boats leaving, you have trafficking networks leaving from Bangladesh you have people getting on boats and going to Malaysia, Thailand, big trafficking syndicates that are working. You have armed groups that are working. It's a threat to international peace and security. But the main threat to international peace and security, again, I'm going to go back, is the Myanmar junta. They're the root of this problem, and they're in a totally illegal regime. Min Aung Hlaing and his men, they led a coup 5 years ago. They took over from a democratically elected government, and they're leading a dictatorship right now. So it's not a organization that should be, it's not a good faith actor. And they're abusing their people across the country.
Since 2017, there is a word we have used and have heard a couple of crore times, that is repatriation. There are 3 indicators, 3 points actually: voluntary, safe, and dignified. Based on these 3 points, Rohingyas should go back to their country as early as possible. These lines we are hearing since 2017. Only one tripartite initiative was there in 2017 in New York, sideline of the United Nations, GA. among Bangladesh, China, and Myanmar. But now, 2026, we are talking in January, not a single repatriation has happened. Why?
It's a great question. And I think Rohingya themselves want to go back. Rohingya want to return to Arakan, their original homeland. The reason that repatriation would not work under international standards, best practices right now is that the situation in Rakhine State is one that we can see at the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. They put in place provisional measures, which are measures to try to keep Rohingya safe. Those measures have been broken. Rohingyas in Rakhine State are still not given citizenship. They're not given freedom of movement. They're not given safety and security, not just by the Myanmar military, but by this new actor called the Arakan Army. And the Arakan Army has been resisting against the military for many years. But back in November 2023 and in November 2024, there was huge violence and fighting between the Myanmar military and the Arakan Army.
That Three Brotherhood Alliance.
Right after that.
After that.
So
and it was called Operation 1027.
Right, exactly. So after the operation, the Arakan Army ended their ceasefire with the kind of quote unquote ceasefire. What they were doing was really smart. They were building up administration. They were building up weapons. They were building up troops. Right after what happened in October, the Arakan Army started attacking the Myanmar military. And the Arakan Army is a very powerful armed ethnic resistance army. So they were able to take back Mongdaw, Butidong, and Ratidong. And they've had control of Mongdaw, Ratidong, and Butidong for over a year now. And what we saw after that was they're great fighters. They're fighting against the Myanmar military, and maybe that's a just fight. But they're not protecting Rohingya civilians. They're actually not even protecting Rakhine civilians. So what we saw after the takeover of Mongdaw, when the Arakan Army took over, we saw abuses start. We saw a large massacre in May 2024 when there was fighting happening of probably more than 100 Rohingya people. On August 5th, the same day that Sheikh Hasina fled to India, the AA attacked with drones and artillery fire a group of fleeing refugees. That was probably more than 100 people. And my colleagues and I at Fortify Rights have documented, and I've gone to Cox's Bazar and spoken with refugees that have fled the Arakan Army abuses. We're talking about killings, not just regular killings, beheadings. There was at least 5 cases of beheadings in the last 2 years. Beheadings is a punishment which is kind of trying to create fear and havoc amongst the civilian population. We've documented detentions. We've documented torture. These are against Rohingya civilians. The Arakan Army tries to justify it, saying we're going after Rohingya militants, ARSA, RSO. But the people that we spoke to, these are civilians. These are women. These are elderly people. So the Arakan Army really needs to stop their abuses. What we think that the Arakan Army should do is allow Rohingya back to Rakhine State, allow them citizenship, allow them to be a part of the political process, which is the United League of Arakan, ULA. That's their political wing. They should be allowed to serve in politics. The National Unity Government, which is the resistance government, the true government of Myanmar now, they should also support the Rohingya people. Obviously, the Arakan Army are not doing those things currently. So repatriation right now is really, really difficult because the situation is just not safe.
Here, that point, whoever is doing there is no peace right now.
Exactly.
Without bringing peace inside Myanmar, repatriation of Rohingyas is nearly impossible. So why don't international community or United Nations or other friendly countries who are requesting Bangladesh to have Rohingyas years after years, why don't they try or take initiatives to bring peace inside Myanmar? I mean, why don't they talk with Myanmar military and Arakan Army or other insurgent groups?
I think this is a great suggestion. I think governments worldwide should be engaging
Because we haven't seen any initiatives from international community. What we have seen regarding Ukraine, Russia, in Venezuela, or some other West Latin countries, when some incidents happening there, international community came up, the world leaders came up, they request to stop. But regarding Rohingyas, regarding these atrocities, this situation of Rakhine, nobody is talking to Myanmar or the insurgent groups to stop this.
Yeah, I think there needs to be accountability for the Myanmar military, but governments worldwide should also be engaging the National Unity Government. They're the real government of Myanmar. A lot of them are in exile now. A lot of them are in liberated areas of the resistance. These are real democratic leaders. I was just in Karenni State working with the IEC, the Interim Executive Council of Karenni State. They're a state-level governance structure that's resisting the Myanmar military. Governments worldwide should be saying, those are the people that we should be supporting. They need to be supporting the resistance that is coming against the Myanmar military. The Myanmar military is an illegal regime. So we've advocated for support for the National Unity Government, technical support, financial support. Donor governments can support the National Unity Government. NUG has also put in place Rohingya advisors and Rohingya representatives. So one of the major Rohingya representatives in the government, in the NUG, is Ong Jamo. Ong Jamo was put in place over a year ago.
But it was long ago.
Yeah, it's great. And so I think what needs to happen is donor governments and governments worldwide need to support the NUG because they're really respecting Rohingya rights right now. They're the ones that are trying to prop up the democratic institutions. And we don't see this. And so governments need to turn away and not be a part of these fake elections that are going on, these sham elections. It's an illegal regime. They're literally using airstrikes, bombing their own people in the same places that they're trying to get voting to happen. It's like extremely absurd. So I agree with you totally that the international community and other governments should not be supporting the illegal regime. They should be supporting the resistance and trying to bring Rohingya back to Myanmar.
Let's talk about the funds. You know very well in JRP, Joint Response Plan, the fund is now in a declining curve. Bangladesh has many economical problems also, and managing the Rohingyas, it's an additional burden for Bangladesh government. And the international funds are also declining. So how Bangladesh will manage?
Yeah, I think governments worldwide, it's really a shame the Trump administration has put cracks in the aid sector in major ways. He totally tore apart USAID, one of the biggest funding organizations globally, and it had real impacts on civilians. There was a few hospitals in Cox's Bazar that had to close down because they didn't have enough funding to support local host community and Rohingya refugees. On the border with Thailand, people died because of the USAID restrictions and the fund cuts.
The fund cuts.
So really, the funding situation is really awful globally. There's crises in Gaza, Ukraine, Myanmar. But I think kind of middle states now are really important. Malaysia, Bangladesh, states that have a moral compass, that are trying to do the right thing because the old states, America, is not a power anymore. It's showing that it's just totally reckless. The Trump administration is breaking every international norm, pulling out of all international agreements, invading countries like Venezuela. It's extremely problematic what the Trump administration is doing. And we at Fortify Rights don't believe what he's doing helps refugee communities, helps democratic movements, and helps human rights globally. We're strictly opposed to the Trump kind of process of international diplomacy.
On this point, I have heard you are going to, your organization is going to file a lawsuit against President Trump.
Yes, our founder and CEO, Matthew Smith, filed a lawsuit against Trump.
Oh, it's already filed?
Filed already, finished. And the lawsuit was about what Trump did, which was he sanctioned the ICC, the International Criminal Court. The ICC brings cases against individuals and tries to try individuals for crimes that they've committed, atrocity crimes. We as an organization obviously work on accountability, and we want to engage the ICC. But we, Fortify Rights, are a registered U.S. entity. We're a registered nonprofit in the U.S. And the Trump sanctions of the ICC made it very difficult for registered organizations to engage the ICC. So our CEO and founder, Matthew Smith, brought a case in a state court in the U.S. Against Trump because he believed that what Trump's sanctions were doing was breaking his right to freedom of expression and his right to be able to engage the ICC. So that court case is ongoing, but yes, Fortify Rights and our CEO and our founder, Matthew Smith, he sued Trump. Yeah.
Come back to Bangladesh again. I can remember last year you have reported regarding Arsa once. On the very same day, Arsa Amir was arrested in Bangladesh. Was there any link between these things?
Yeah, very interesting about that. So yeah, last year we released a report on ARSA and RSO and their abuses, looking at the nexus between the violence happening in Bangladesh and the violence happening in Myanmar. And what we found is there was a nexus, and that the crimes happening in Bangladesh were related to the crimes happening in Myanmar. And one of the main leaders of those crimes was this man named Ataullah, the head and founder of a group called ARSA. And so it's normal what we do. When we publish a report, we send letters to the government weeks or months before we publish, asking the government to respond to our general findings. It will be a 1 or 2 page document. So we sent letters to a number of ministries in the Bangladeshi government a month before publishing in February. In March, we published the report. And the night before, or the night of, kind of the early morning before we published the report, Ataullah and some of his top commanders, I think 5 or 6 men, were arrested. This was a great job by Bangladesh. They did amazing work to find and arrest Ataullah. I mean, they likely kind of knew probably where he was already. So they decided to make the arrest. And I think it was a really welcome move because Ataullah is dangerous. He's a dangerous criminal. He's likely responsible for war crimes and other atrocities against the Rohingya people, but he also killed a Bangladeshi official, a part of the security apparatus in Bangladesh. And so he's responsible for killing a Bangladeshi national. At least that's the allegation. So now Ataullah is being held in a jail in Bandarban.
In speaking of killing Bangladeshis or being wounded, injured, on the no man's land, on the borders between Bangladesh and Myanmar, there are, I think, thousands of landmines are there. And since 2017, there was a statistics I have found that at least 44 people lost their legs or hands, and at least 5 died. Is there any way to get any remedy of these problems? Because people are dying, people are being wounded.
Putting landmines along a border is extremely dangerous.
But there are. I mean, it was earlier what we have heard that Myanmar military put them along with the border. Nowadays, we are hearing Arkan army is putting those landmines on the border. So how international community can help them? I mean, is there any chance to talk between Bangladesh and Arkan army? Since Arkan army is occupying these borders, it's 271 kilometers border. It's completely occupied by Arkan army. But since they are a non-state actor, how Bangladesh can act? Because being a government, they cannot talk with rebel groups or with a non-state actor.
I think there's ways to engage the resistance. It's not illegal to talk to an armed group as a government. It might be politically very sensitive. But I think the Bangladeshi authorities have to engage the Arkan army because they control the place where the Rohingya will be repatriated. In the near future, they may control all of Arkan. There is a possibility that, the Arkan army has very good military strength. And they're also, the Arkan army is supporting other resistance armies. They're supporting the Quran. They're supporting the Karenni. They're supporting groups in Sagaing and Magway. So their reach is quite broad. So I think there is need to engage the Arakan army in diplomatic ways. I know that's going to create issues for Bangladesh with Naypyidaw, with the junta. It's a very difficult situation to be in. But particularly when it comes to cross-border aid, I think less Rohingya would come into Bangladesh if there was access to services in Rakhine. And right now, the humanitarian situation in Rakhine is dire. We interviewed Rohingya in Rakhine State that had issues getting food, issues getting medical supplies. This is under the Arakan Army administration, but the supply routes going into Rakhine State is really difficult. I know some supplies are coming through Myanmar in secret ways. Some supplies obviously are coming across the Bangladesh border, formally and informally. So it's a very difficult situation that you have along the border. It's really tragic also that Bangladeshis and Rohingya have stepped on mines. Stepping on a landmine changes your life forever. I pray and hope for the future of the people that are disabled now because of landmines. There's a global treaty to ban landmines and the use of landmines.
The Ottawa Convention.
Yeah. And I think...
But Myanmar is not a signatory there.
And it's one of the worst perpetrators of landmine uses, both the Myanmar military, but also the ethnic resistance. The ethnic resistance is laying landmines a lot. And what we would say is, okay, if you're not going to ban the use of landmines, at least map where you put landmines really safely. And when you...
At least people will know that these are the places I cannot go there.
Yeah. Children, the elderly, women. I mean, these are people that should not be anywhere near landmines. It's really unfortunate what is happening.
Go back to the politics. I mean, 45 Rights has started working regarding the Bangladesh politics also.
Yes.
You are working on Rohingyas and Myanmar for a long, but you have started off about politics also. A national election is very soon scheduled. So what do you see regarding the political scenario in Bangladesh? I mean, you're going to observe also the election.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong.
I'll be coming back, yeah.
So what's the situation you are seeing now, and what's your expectation being an international organization?
Yeah, thank you. We're quite new to Bangladeshi human rights movement, so we want to talk to everyone and learn as much as we can. We're still very much in the process of learning about the situation here, so we're learning from even journalists on the ground and other things. So we're very happy. But Fortify Rights, we work in all the countries we work on atrocity crimes. And what happened in July and August would be considered crimes against humanity, most likely. The fact-finding mission said there's reasonable grounds to believe that crimes against humanity happened under the Hasina regime. And the ICT, the International Crimes Tribunal of Bangladesh, is trying to extradite Hasina to come back to face trial for crimes against humanity. That's an atrocity crime. And, I arrived in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, almost a week after Sheikh Hasina fled to India. And Fortify Rights built a small team to document the protest-related killings. So we interviewed witnesses and people that had been shot by Bangladeshi security forces and by members of the Awami League. We documented killings in Dhaka, we documented killings in Chittagong, and we documented no killings in Cox's Bazar, but acts of violence in Cox's Bazar. And this was widespread and systematic.
What about the upcoming election? Do you expect a peaceful, free, fair, and credible election is going to happen?
We hope that there's a much more free and credible election than years previously. I mean, Bangladesh was ruled by Sheikh Hasina for 15 years. There's been no real vote. We're hopeful about seeing international monitors come that are actually quite rigorous monitors, both from government but also from the NGO community. There is a little bit more freedom of expression, freedom of assembly here in Bangladesh than under the Hasina government. But there are also concerning signs in the lead up to the elections. I mean, we had an independent candidate assassinated in broad daylight, riding a rickshaw. And there's evidence that some of the perpetrators fled the country. This is extremely concerning that someone would be assassinated that's running for politics in broad daylight. So Fortify Rights obviously is advocating for justice for his family and also for an end to political violence. After that, there was the burning of the Daily Star in Portomalo. So these are very concerning lead up to the elections, but I'm very hopeful that people will be able to vote. The young generation has never really been able to vote in Bangladesh, people that are university students, stuff like, and older. So we hope that they'll be able to vote and that there's not just one main political party, for many years, it was just the Awami League. So there needs to be opportunity for other political parties to run. So you have the NCP, you have Jamaat, you have BNP. People should be able to vote for them. You have independent candidates. So we hope that the current interim government is able to provide safety and security for voters when they go to cast their votes, and that can really condemn any sort of political violence that's happening from any party, from any person. Yeah.
We are also really hopeful, and we also expect a free, fair, credible elections. And I really expect you that after the election, you will again come here, and
Thank you.
I'll be very glad to listening from you.
Thank you.
Regarding the election.
Thank you.
Mr. John Quinley, thank you very much for attending our today's Decoding Diplomacy.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
থ্যাংক ইউ। কথা বলছিলাম ডিকোডিং ডিপ্লোমেসির অতিথি জন কুইনলির সাথে, যিনি ফোর্টিফাই রাইটসের ডিরেক্টর, এবং রোহিঙ্গা মিয়ানমার নিয়ে তার সাথে বিস্তারিত আলাপ হয়েছে। তারা নির্বাচনটিও পর্যবেক্ষণ করছেন, নির্বাচন নিয়ে তার সাথে নিশ্চয়ই আলাপ করব পরবর্তীতে। ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে সাথে থাকার জন্য।